Jiang Yintai's brows were tightly furrowed. Third brother went to Nanzhou. All the projects that could be discussed openly are being worked on, with no apparent flaws. But who he met in secret is too difficult to investigate. Mora isn't close to us, so we can't start by investigating her. On the other hand, think we could try to get closer to Mora, Tang Hui said abruptly. Jiang Yintai looked up at his wife. As expected of a married couple, he immediately understood her intention. He said, "The person Mora wants to marry is third brother. How could you possibly expect her to marry into our family at a lower generation?" Upon hearing this, Jiang Zhe immediately declared, "I won't marry Mora. If I'm marrying anyone, it'll be Yunyan." "You scoundrel! If you hadn't done that, there might have been room for maneuver. Now you're still thinking of marrying someone from the Yu family? What are you thinking?" Jiang Yintai's anger flared up again. Tang Hui quickly tried to calm him down, asking Jiang Zhe, "Tell me honestly, do you genuinely like that girl from the Yu family, or are you just feeling resentful?" "Both," Jiang Zhe frowned. "She's my woman. Why should I give her up to someone else? If that girl from the Yu family really has something going on with your uncle, it might actually be a good thing," Jiang Yintai said. He wasn't concerned with his son's likes or dislikes. He was thinking about issues from entirely different angles. Mora has her eyes on third brother. Now, with third brother causing such a blunder, do you think the Mora family can just swallow this humiliation? No, absolutely not. I can never give Yunyan away, especially not to my own uncle. That's even worse. Jiang Zhe vehemently disagreed. "She's just a woman. Why are you making such a fuss? We agreed to you marrying Yunyan before out of respect for the Yu family, and later to please your grandmother. Now, even if you're 10,000 times unwilling, we won't agree to you marrying Yunyan." Jiang Yintai made his stance clear. "Dad, what I'm thinking is," Jiang Yintai ignored what Jiang Zhe was saying, interrupting him with a frown. Now, whether the Jiang family has loosened its stance or not, Yunyan's relationship with the Jiang family is essentially defined. If she gets entangled with third brother again, things will get even bigger. It's better to just go with the flow and solidify this matter. When public opinion becomes one-sided, the Mora family will definitely seize the opportunity to cause trouble. Third brother will be too busy to deal with himself. At that time, as long as Ace gets married, he will become the Jiang family's lifeline. Tang Hui understood her husband's meaning and turned to Jiang Zhe, saying, "Stabilizing our main branch is the most important thing right now. So be obedient. Don't cling to Yunyan anymore. There are many girls from families of comparable strength waiting. The important thing now is to quickly decide on a suitable candidate for a marriage alliance." Jiang Zhe gritted his teeth, veins bulging on his neck. "I know you can't swallow this, but wasn't getting you to marry Yunyan quickly back then also to please your grandmother? Times have changed. If you marry Yunyan now, wouldn't you be saving your uncle? If your uncle is satisfied, our main branch won't be. Think carefully about this," Jiang Yintai said sternly and righteously. How could Jiang Zhe not know the current situation of the Jiang family? On the surface, there was harmony, but beneath, treacherous waves churned. In earlier years, the main branch's biggest threat was second uncle, Jiang Yinchi. Ever since his younger uncle returned to the Jiang family, the entire landscape had been thrown into disarray, and it was truly difficult to find solid footing amidst the chaos. "But, you want me to call her little aunt-in-law?" Jiang Zhe said resentfully. He couldn't accept that. Jiang Yintai glared at him, angry at his lack of ambition, and reprimanded. "Do you really think she can marry in? It's true your grandmother likes Yunyan, but she only recognizes Mora as your uncle's fiancée. The old lady also cares about face. Someone who was supposed to be her grandson's wife suddenly becoming her son's wife. She couldn't possibly accept that, and it would damage the Jiang family's reputation." Tang Hui took his hand and said earnestly, "To be frank, that girl from the Yu family is destined to be a sacrifice right now. Don't rush and blindly again. Once our main branch gains the upper hand, it'll be a simple matter to manipulate that Yu family girl however you wish, won't it? Who in the Yu family would dare to speak up then?" Jiang Yintai looked at Jiang Zhe and strictly admonished him. "At this time, you need to rein in your temper. When your mother arranges for you to meet someone, you go meet them obediently. You're a grown man. It's time to take responsibility." Although Jiang Zhe was angry, he couldn't openly defy his father. It wasn't until the plane landed that Yunyan realized where they were. "Why are we in Chang'an?" Yunyan couldn't help but ask. From Nanzhou to Chang'an. According to old Lu, this was Jiang Yinyan's personal trip. If it was his personal trip, why did he bring her along? As she asked, she had already gotten into a car with Jiang Yinyan. And this car had no connection to the Jiang family whatsoever. It turned out to be a car he had rented. More precisely, it was a car he rented using someone else's identification, and he was driving it himself. At first, Yunyan was a bit dazed and didn't react. It wasn't until Jiang Yinyan drove the car away from the airport that she understood one thing. This was truly a completely private trip. Not only was he driving the entire way himself, but he wasn't using the Jiang family's car and wasn't renting with his own ID. It seemed he didn't want anyone to find anything out. Such meticulous planning was indeed his usual style. Chang'an was colder than Nanzhou this season, but fortunately, the sun outside was strong and brilliantly dazzling. Jiang Yinyan promptly turned on the car's heater and the passenger seat's heating. He said, "Look at the scenery." Yunyan, with a stomach full of questions, had waited from Nanzhou until the plane landed, only to receive this answer. She was stunned for several seconds, then uttered, "Ah, look at the scenery?" She eyed him hesitantly. "Seriously?" Jiang Yinyan grunted, steering the car steadily. He glanced at her during a turn, and seeing her bewildered expression, he was genuinely amused. "Can't I come to see the scenery? You cut short your trip in Nanzhou, and your goal was to come to Chang'an to see the scenery?" She couldn't believe it. Jiang Yinyan slowly said, "Now is the most beautiful time in Chang'an, a rare and precious sight." Yunyan remained suspicious. He just didn't seem like the type of person who would care about scenery. First, they went to a guest house. They didn't stay in a hotel. Needless to say, the guest house was also booked by Jiang Yinyan under someone else's identity. The guest house was located in a quiet area, not a typical urban residence. It was clearly the work of a professional designer, a garden-style guest house. Nestled within a large bamboo grove, it featured an independent courtyard and a spacious room. In the courtyard, there was an old tree and a gently flowing water lily pond, where colorful koi swam playfully. Scattering a handful of fish food would attract many koi vying for it. One could also sit on a bamboo chair and bask in the sun, the sunlight softly filtered by the ancient tree. Occasionally, pigeons, pristine white and very beautiful, would fly over to forage. The very large room, however, only had one double bed. Yun Yin understood when she saw Jiang Yinyan naturally placing both their luggage together. He had no intention of booking 2 rooms. She sighed, "Fine, what's the point of being coy when our relationship is already like this?" It was past 3 in the afternoon after they settled into their accommodation. Yun Yin wondered what scenery they could possibly see at this time. To her surprise, Jiang Yinyan meticulously unpacked both their luggage, hanging all the clothes that needed to be hung into the wardrobe. He was quite efficient and tidy in his actions. Yun Yin was not unfamiliar with this side of him. These were INS habits from the past. Especially when they were together, he would inevitably take very thorough care of her. She opened the wardrobe and looked. The clothes were neatly categorized, and though there weren't many items, they were all organized in good order. Jiang Yinyan had instructed old Liu to take most of the luggage back. In fact, the two of them didn't have much luggage to begin with. Many of the things Yun Yin had bought earlier were shipped away after they returned to the hotel. Jiang Yinyan asked her if she wanted to rest or go out and play. Yun Yin remained utterly bewildered by his trip to Chang'an and didn't understand what he meant by go out and play or where they would go. After thinking, she said, "Let's rest. I'm quite tired." She had been severely sleep-deprived for the past 2 days. Although she had slept all the way from Nanzhou, it was still on a plane, and even in first class, she couldn't sleep well. Jiang Yinyan didn't force her, simply saying, "All right." The guest house bed was quite comfortable. Yun Yin nestled in bed and soon felt drowsy again. The courtyard was visible outside the window. The curtains weren't drawn, and she could see Jiang Yinyan's figure. She had thought Jiang Yinyan would go out for business, or that he would meet someone in Chang'an, as it seemed completely preposterous for someone like him to come simply to see the scenery. But he didn't leave. He just sat by the pond, holding a handful of fish food, leisurely feeding the fish. The faint afternoon light slanted across him, his broad back enveloped in light and shadow. As Yun Yin watched him like this, she couldn't explain why, but a warmth always emerged from the depths of her heart. Yet, she knew very well that the Jiang Yinyan in her eyes at this moment resembled Ian from their youth. Once upon a time, she had also felt a profound sense of security just by looking at INS back, as if the sky could fall and she wouldn't have to worry because he would always be there to hold up a piece of the sky for her. As Yun Yin watched, her eyelids began to droop again. Before she knew it, she had fallen asleep. She didn't know how long she had slept, but she vaguely felt someone enter the room. Although their movements were light, she knew in her heart that someone had come in. The person sat on the bedside, and when they reached out to gently caress her cheek, she smelled the man's familiar scent. It was Jiang Yinyan. This time, she drifted into a deep sleep. When she woke again, it was already dark outside. The curtains weren't fully drawn, only the white inner curtain, and scattered points of light from the courtyard fell onto the white curtain, preventing the view from being completely immersed in darkness. No one was by the bed, and the room was very quiet. For a moment, Yun Yin didn't feel very good. It was that feeling of profound quietness everywhere after waking up. Generally, She rarely slept during the day and woke up at night because this always made her feel isolated and helpless. Ever since the Yu family's incident, she had disliked this feeling. She used to not be like this. She could sleep whenever she wanted. Even if she slept all day, when she opened her eyes at night, she would still see the lively bustle of her entire family. The butler would always tell her, "Oh, my little darling, you're finally awake. Your dinner has been warmed up countless times, you know." Her mother, always elegant, sometimes arranging flowers, sometimes reading, would laugh and say, "A young girl so lazy. How will she ever get married later?" Her father would always cancel social engagements to come home early, and if he caught her just waking up, he would chuckle and say, "Is my little princess planning to be a night owl again tonight?" Yunyan had thought them noisy back then. What truly filled her with panic and despair was when she and Yu Wanzhou moved from Jiangnan to Beishur. It was the day they arrived in Beishur. She had spent the entire day packing, and by dusk, she was so exhausted she fell asleep. Xiaomin and Yu Wanzhou were both there at the time. When she woke up, it was pitch dark outside, the room was silent, and Xiaomin and Yu Wanzhou were nowhere to be seen. In that moment, for some unknown reason, her tears streamed down. The former liveliness of the Yu family was gone, and it felt as if the whole world had abandoned her here alone. So when Yu Wanzhou and Xiaomin returned, they found Yunyan curled up on the sofa, with no lights on. They were quite alarmed, not knowing what was wrong with her. It turned out they had gone out to order food, returning with many bags in their hands. Yunyan got out of bed to look at the courtyard, but Jiang Yinyan was no longer there. Only a chair remained, with several streaks of light from the courtyard rippling on the surface of the pond, falling together onto the chair. Tonight's moon was beautiful, large and bright, reflecting so much light that the courtyard seemed to glow in reverse, the ground appearing as if covered in a layer of snow. The magnificent nightscape somewhat alleviated the anxiety in Yunyan's heart. There was a faint sound from the living room. She hurried out of the bedroom to see, and the scene before her instantly dispelled the vague unease and helplessness stirring within her heart. She stood there, one hand on the wall, completely still for a moment. The living room wasn't brightly lit. The fireplace was lit, and the burning logs inside emitted soft crackling sounds. It was said that Chang'an City had also seen a drop in temperature these past 2 days, falling to around 1 degree Celsius after nightfall. The fireplace in this guest house was not just for show, it could warm the entire house. Jiang Yinyan sat on the sofa beside the fireplace, with only a floor lamp on, its light combined with the fireplace's glow making him appear utterly relaxed and languid. He was reading a book, likely taken from the bookshelf, the word Xian Guai faintly visible. Yunyan thought to herself, so he likes to read this kind of book? Perhaps hearing the movement, Jiang Yinyan looked up. Seeing her standing not far away, his gaze was deep. After his eyes swept over her bare feet, he seemed resigned, closed the book, set it aside, and got up to get her slippers. "Put on your shoes. Even though the room is warm, the floor is cold," he said, bending down to place the slippers on the floor. Yunyan felt a momentary daze. It was as if she had returned to the past. Whenever she came out of her bedroom barefoot, a yin would always appear silently like a ghost, then remind her, "Miss, put on your slippers." Her dislike for wearing slippers was a habit she'd had since childhood, because much of the Yu family home was carpeted and most areas wouldn't make her feet cold. But later she kept sneezing, and after a doctor's diagnosis, she learned she was allergic to cat and dog dander. At the time, there was a puppy in the house, which Yunyan herself had brought back from a classmate's home. Seeing her allergy was too severe, they had no choice but to return the puppy while it was still young and no strong bond had formed. They couldn't keep the puppy, and the doctor also advised against carpets and the like at home. So, there wasn't a single carpet left in the entire Yu family residence. But Yunyan's habit of not wearing slippers never changed, which is why Yin always reminded her whenever he saw it. It wasn't just trivial matters like wearing slippers. A Yin was her personal bodyguard, but she wasn't constantly exposed to danger. Over time, all the big and small things in her life became a Yan's responsibility. For example, whenever she went out, he would always be prepared with things she hadn't thought to bring. He handled everything meticulously, and this was all while ensuring his own studies were completed. So her father often told her, "Look at a Yin, then look at yourself. He handles his studies with one hand and looks after you with the other. He manages both perfectly. I heard from school that he swept up all the scholarships again this year." She would playfully ask her father, "Are you trying to get me to save you some money?" Ah, if only you had a Yan's academic ability. A Yan received the best education at the Yu family home, but he didn't use his real identity. Because at that time, no one knew his true identity. He only knew himself as a Yan, and his surname was unknown. He used the identity of a distant relative of the family, so not everyone at school knew he was her bodyguard. Whenever they saw him, some classmates would always tell Yunyan, "Your cousin is here to see you again." Sometimes, Yun would playfully call him cousin from in front or behind him, then laugh and say, Yin, why don't I be your little sister? Although the Yu family had relatives, Yun didn't like them. Despite her young age, she could see the manipulative intentions of those relatives trying to curry favor. For example, she only had Yuan Zhou, and although he became more pompous as he grew older, he was still her younger brother. She envied others who had older brothers. She liked Yin, feeling very safe with him around, and thought how wonderful it would be to have such an older brother always by my side. Yin wasn't good at being teased. The first few times, his ears would always turn red, and he'd tell her, Miss, please don't joke around. But this was Yun's heartfelt wish, so she couldn't help but say it. Until one time, Yin stared at her and said, word for word, you cannot be my sister, and I don't have a sister. That day, Yun was startled. Her eyes instantly reddened, and she ran away. She didn't speak to Yin for the entire afternoon. Not until evening, when Yin brought a glass of milk to her room and asked, are you still angry? She still ignored him and wouldn't drink the milk. Yin sighed softly, placing the milk glass in her hand. Miss is a golden branch and jade leaf. Don't belittle your status. Yin at that time felt he wasn't worthy of being her older brother. When Jiang Yunyan stood up, Yunyan finally pulled herself out of her memories, looking at the familiar face before her, which had lost the boyish innocence and wildness, replaced by a man's sharpness and depth. Before, she trusted him, liked to cling to him. Now, she feared him, wishing she could avoid him by a mile. Why had she and he come to this point? Are you hungry? Jiang Yunyan didn't know what she was thinking. Seeing her gaze blank and dazed, he mistakenly thought it was her morning grumpiness. She had been grumpy after waking up since childhood, either looking drowsy and confused or throwing a tantrum. Yunyan felt perhaps it was because they were in a foreign place, and it was night. Jiang Yunyan seemed less aggressive. She shook her head, not hungry, just thirsty. Just as she was about to get water herself, she saw Jiang Yunyan turn to the water bar, pour a cup of already brewed pear water, and bring it over to her, handing it to her. Yunyan took it. The temperature was just right, neither hot nor cold. She was surprised. You brewed this? Yes, I brewed it. Is there something wrong? Jiang Yunyan countered. Yunyan was stumped by the question. Only then did she realize that such a small thing was nothing for him. She said nothing more and took a couple of sips of the pear water. This season was rather dry, and a sip of pear water felt much more soothing on her throat. Jiang Yunyan raised his hand, and Yunyan instinctively flinched, almost spilling the pear water from her cup. His hand froze in midair, and he frowned slightly. Why are you dodging? Yunyan remained frozen. Jiang Yunyan's expression showed a faint displeasure, but he didn't reveal too much annoyance. His large hand covered her forehead. Seeing her temperature was normal, he said, you had a fever earlier, after all, so your energy will be depleted. Eat some dinner, drink more hot water, and if you're still sleepy, keep sleeping. Yunyan hadn't expected him to say such words, and simply uttered, oh. After finishing the pear water, she finally reacted, but I'm not hungry, eat a little something. Jiang Yunyan interrupted her, taking the water cup from her hand. Yunyan thought they would eat out, but to her surprise, when she entered the dining room, dinner was already prepared. Jiang Yunyan said that because the guest house was far from the city center, they had hired a chef, whose skills were quite good. He had asked the chef to prepare some light and nutritious dishes. I hope you like the taste. Give it a try. Since she had been sick, Yunyan had eaten mostly bland food. Although the chef at the guest house made tasty dishes, she still found the flavors somewhat plain. Jiang Yunyan sat opposite her, quietly observing her thoughts, but deliberately asked her what was wrong. She thought for a moment and said, this is the city of carbs, and I heard there are many delicious things at the night market. Jiang Yunyan picked up a slice of winter bamboo shoot for her, the corners of his mouth curving subtly, almost imperceptibly. Besides food, is there any place you most want to go? Yunyan thought about it. There actually was. Nothing really. Nowadays, cities don't have much differentiation from one another. The place she wanted to go wasn't suitable to go with him. Jiang Yunyan raised an eyelid and glanced at her, then served her some soup and handed it over, saying casually, high-carb, high-fat foods aren't suitable for you right now. Yunyan didn't expect much, and there was a slight disappointment in her eyes as she lowered her head to drink the soup. Then she heard Jiang Yunyan slowly say, however, if you eat well and rest well tonight, I'll take you to the snack street tomorrow. Really? Jiang Yunyan could see her eyes sparkling, and couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Yunyan felt a strong yearning. She had been a Chang'an before, but that was many years ago. She had seen modern Chang'an on social media, just a variety of snacks that would absolutely surpass what she had experienced before. It was dazzling and bustling, showcasing the vibrancy of an ancient capital, a different kind of prosperity from Beishur. Her mood brightened. and she ate much more comfortably. Jiang Yinyan glanced at her, taking in her joy, and said nothing, though the curve of his lips softened considerably. The guest house was very quiet at night. After dinner, Yinyan felt a bit lazy. She had slept from before dusk until dark. Although she hadn't slept deeply, she didn't feel like going back to sleep immediately after dinner. Mainly, the sense of threat from Jiang Yinyan tonight wasn't very strong. He seemed much more approachable. Yinyan wondered if this was related to his personal itinerary, as it wasn't work-related, purely personal time, so perhaps he was more relaxed than usual. After washing up, she sat where Jiang Yinyan had been, languidly staring at the burning logs in the fireplace for a long time. Gazing at the flickering flames, her heart felt exceptionally calm. True fire, indeed, was a memory etched into human bones. No electric or imitation light could achieve the same effect. Jiang Yinyan came out holding a hairdryer. After showering, she always lacked the patience to blow-dry her hair, at most letting it air-dry to semi-dry, or just giving a quick rub with a dry towel. When Jiang Yinyan sat down beside her, she didn't react much, mesmerized by the flames in the fireplace. He raised a hand and touched her hair. Sure enough, only the outer layer was dry, while the inside was still wet. He turned on the hairdryer and dried her hair for her. The airflow was gentle, the temperature warm. Yunyan didn't react immediately, always lost in a daze, recalling the scene when Yin dried her hair at the Yu family home, as if she had returned to that time. But she quickly realized something was off. Just as she was about to turn her head, she heard Jiang Yinyan quietly caution, "Don't move." She didn't dare to move. The man's slender fingers ran through her hair, seemingly gentle, just like he seemed approachable when not angry, but once provoked, she would bear the consequences. Just his hands, with their distinct, beautiful, and sensual knuckles, could bring her pleasure and, at the same time, suffocate her. His moods were unpredictable. She didn't want to spoil the otherwise tranquil atmosphere, so she obediently rested her head on the armrest of the sofa. When she slightly turned her face, light danced between her brows and eyes, making her originally fair face appear as radiant as peach blossoms. Jiang Yinyan lightened his touch, using the lowest fan speed to slowly dry her long hair. Her hair was of excellent quality, becoming smooth and fragrant as it gradually dried. Yinyan felt a little drowsy again. The man's gentle fingers, relaxing her scalp, always made her feel at ease. After her hair was dry, while Jiang Yinyan was putting away the hairdryer, she looked at the book he had been reading. This time, she clearly saw the title, Xianguai Lu and Su Xianguai Lu, Records of the Mysterious and Strange, and Continued Records of the Mysterious and Strange. After she had flipped through a few pages, Jiang Yinyan came out. It seemed he was purely on vacation. He wasn't busy with work, nor was he making calls. He simply sat on the sofa, looking quite relaxed. Yunyan hadn't read the book. She shook it towards him and asked, "What's it about?" "It's a collection of fantastical short stories," Jiang Yinyan said, taking the book and flipping through it. Yunyan curled up on the sofa. "Like what?" Jiang Yinyan thought for a moment and said, "There was a man named Cui Xiao who killed 3 cats, and then he was taken to the underworld for trial. Because Cui Xiao's family had been worshipping the one-character Heavenly King for 2 generations, he received the Heavenly King's help in the underworld to be absolved of his crime. Cui Xiao himself also promised that if he could return to the living world, he would definitely transcribe Buddhist scriptures to dedicate to the victims. With his promise, he eventually returned successfully to the living world. Yunyan originally wanted to say that cause and effect truly come full circle in this world, and all the immoral deeds done in the living world would be remembered one by one in the underworld. But she feared Jiang Yinyan might misunderstand, so she forcibly swallowed her words. She asked, "Are there any other interesting stories?" "Want to hear one?" Yinyan nodded, but she was too lazy to read herself. Jiang Yinyan seemed to have anticipated her inertia. He smiled without complaint and opened the book. "How about a story about dream premonitions?" Yunyan nodded, leaning against the sofa. Since someone was telling her a story, of course, she would listen to whatever was told. No need to be picky. Jiang Yinyan, on the other hand, was exceptionally patient and began to tell her. A daughter of the Wei family from Jingzhou, 2 years after her coming-of-age ceremony, her mother told her, "There is a scholar, Pei Shuang, who wishes to marry you." The daughter smiled and said, "He is not my husband." Her mother noted this, although matchmakers came daily, eloquently praising Pei's talent. At this point, he turned to look at her. She listened languidly. Seeing him stop, she asked what was wrong. Jiang Yinyan smiled. "Can you understand it told this way?" Yinyan honestly said, "If I'm trying to understand it by listening, it's a bit difficult." "All right, I'll tell it to you in plain language then." Jiang Yinyan was very patient. Yunyan rested her head on the sofa, looking at Jiang Yinyan by the indoor light. He was so agreeable at that moment that she almost didn't recognize him. Jiang Ninyan then switched to the vernacular version. In the capital, there was a daughter of a family named Wei. When she was 17, her mother told her, "There's a scholar named Pei Shuang who wants to marry you." The daughter smiled and said, "He is not my husband." Her mother remembered. Yunyan listened quietly. She listened as the Wei family daughter successively rejected those who came to propose marriage, so confidently declaring who was not her husband, until 2 years later, when Zhang Chujin, a successful imperial examination candidate, appeared. Only then did the Wei family daughter say, "This man is my husband." The Wei family daughter told her mother that she had dreamt her entire life, understood every event she would encounter in the rest of her life, and knew her own destiny. As Yunyan listened, her consciousness gradually drifted away. She thought, how wonderful it would be if I had such an ability. Wouldn't that be equivalent to foresight? If she had this ability, she would immediately advise her father to avoid risks, or even tell him that he could save a yin, but not to bring him to the Yu family. Instead, he should set him free and let him find his family as soon as possible. Or perhaps she could notify the Jiang family earlier, so they could find a yin when he was very young, thus sparing him the suffering he endured in childhood. He would no longer be anyone's personal bodyguard, no longer have fear and hatred in his heart. He would grow up freely in the old Jiang family residence. By then, when they met again, wouldn't their encounter be completely different? At least it wouldn't be like this. As Yunyan thought this, her consciousness became increasingly blurry. The room was too quiet. The fireplace emitted the sound of burning logs. Jiang Yunyan's voice, in such a night, was low and sensual, and also had a comforting effect. Her eyelids grew heavier and heavier, as if she truly had returned to the past. The current her, with all her memories, returned to the past. She seemed to wake up in her own bedroom, unable to distinguish between reality and dream for a moment. The mansion was bustling, and the garden was noisy. It turned out her father had brought back a new bodyguard. He was a 15-year-old boy with a frail body, wearing ill-fitting clothes. She dreamt she ran downstairs and told her father to send the child back to the Jiang family. He was the third young master of the Jiang family. Years passed in a blink. She was 2 years past her coming-of-age ceremony, 17 years old. As the book said, 17 years old. She attended the Jiang family's dinner party with her parents and saw him there. That year, he was 22, exceptionally handsome, with a tall and upright figure like an unfamiliar noble gentleman. Everyone called him young Master Yin of the capital. He was abstinent and serene, his gaze calm and detached, the divine and Buddha-like figure who everyone said was uninterested in women. She saw no hatred or sinister gloom in his eyes. His detachment was natural, yet he was extraordinary and aloof, possessing his own spiritual world. This truly was good. Looking around her, the Yu family still existed, her parents were healthy, the Jiang family was harmonious, and Yu Wanzhou was chatting animatedly with a socialite. Yes, if everything could start over, if everything could be avoided, then Yu Wanzhou should be the most dashing young master in Jiangnan, the coveted noble bachelor of the Shanghai Circle. How wonderful would it be if she never woke up and lived forever in this dream? Jiang Yinyan finished telling the story of the Wei family daughter, and seeing the woman beside him had closed her eyes and fallen asleep, he couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. It seemed these past 2 days had truly exhausted her energy. She hadn't been awake for long before falling asleep again. He closed the book and gently placed it on the coffee table, with no intention of waking her. Tonight was strangely quiet, and his heart was exceptionally calm. He quietly watched her, and after a short while, seeing her head drooping lower and lower, he reached out and pulled her closer. She then naturally rested against his chest. Jiang Yinyan lowered his head to look at her face. Illuminated by the firelight, it appeared exceptionally soft and radiant. Every inch of her skin exuded a delicate, unique body scent, one he was familiar with and found hard to resist. His thin lips couldn't help but press against her smooth forehead, the kiss slowly descending. Finally, he gently touched her red lips. There was a time when he'd had improper thoughts about her. Watching her red lips part and close, he would wonder, would they be very sweet to kiss? This thought had first occurred to him back when he was still at the Yu family home, especially when she, having met with disaster, finally saw him. She had clung to him tightly, her beautiful face streaked with tears. In that moment, he had desperately wanted to lower his head and kiss the teardrops from the corners of her eyes. Until they met again. He knew she feared him. He could see it in her eyes. She had once seen his darkest, most sinister side. Not one he showed to outsiders, but one he had directed at her most beloved father. She was afraid of him, yet she had no choice but to seek his help. She no longer trusted him, yet she had to stay by his side, putting on a false front. He knew her heart was full of reluctance, unwillingness, and even belonged to another, but he was still going to force her to stay with him. The first time he kissed her lips, he thought, They really are as sweet as I imagined. A sweetness that could seep into the very bottom of his heart. A sweetness that, every time he thought of it, would slowly warm the coldest parts of his soul. But he couldn't stand the fear and loathing in her eyes. She had once been high above him, a pampered lady of noble birth. He wanted to crush her pride, to tear apart her dignity, to make her soften into a pliant vine that could only cling to him for survival. It was clear that Yunyan was tired. Kissed by him until she was breathless, she could only manage a low hum. The small sound of protest was like a kitten's paw scratching lightly at his chest. A shallow pain, but more of an insistent tickle. Jiang Yinyan's breathing deepened. He stood up and carried her back to the bedroom. The bed was large and comfortable. Yunyan stretched her limbs. Jiang Yinyan loomed over her, but with a soft whimper, she gently wrapped her arm around his, pressing her palm-sized face against it. Jiang Yinyan froze for a moment, then lowered his head to look at her. She was sleeping soundly, even more peacefully than she had on the sofa. She held his arm as if it were a pillow. He was sure of it, or else she wouldn't have rested her head on it as well. Just moments ago, he had been filled with desire, intending to take advantage of her, and here she was, clinging to him so carelessly and continuing to sleep. For a moment, Jiang Yinyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. His desire was still strong, but his heart had inexplicably softened. He tried to move his arm. Jiang Yinyan pressed his thin lips to her ear and whispered, "Yunyan, let go." He would spare her for one night, but only on the condition that he could go take a cold shower first. Perhaps thinking she was in a dream, Yunyan grumbled, "Don't move, I'm dead tired." His entire arm was held fast by her, making it truly difficult to pull away. He thought for a moment, then leaned in and whispered in her ear, "If you don't let go, I'm going to take advantage of you." Her ear tickled. Yunyan raised a hand and slapped him right across the face, still mumbling. She clearly wasn't fully awake. Jiang Yinyan sighed, seemingly in resignation. She was getting bold. After a moment, he simply lay down beside her. The shower would have to wait. The next day, Yunyan woke up in Jiang Yinyan's arms. She had truly slept soundly, as if all the weariness and fatigue of the past period had been washed away in one deep sleep. But she was startled when she opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was a man's chest, muscular and well-defined. Her gaze traveled up to his broad shoulders, then his prominent Adam's apple, his chiseled jaw, and finally his thin lips that suggested a lack of affection. Yunyan heard a buzz in her head. They had been intimate, yes, but this was the first time she had woken up completely enveloped in his embrace, sleeping face to face. In the past, she either slept with her back to him, or he was already gone when she woke up. It had never been like this. Yunyan subconsciously looked up. Jiang Yinyan was still asleep, his brow smooth. He was a quiet sleeper, his breathing light. Of course, there were times when his breathing grew heavy. The thought made Yunyan's heart skip a beat. She cursed herself internally. "Yunyan, have you lost your mind to lust?" To be fair, putting aside Jiang Yinyan's terrifying methods and unpredictable nature, his face and physique were undeniably outstanding. Compared to the Yin from his time at the Yu family, his face was much sharper now, but only in his usual state. Now, as he slept, his long eyelashes concealed his deep, reserved eyes, making the lines of his face appear much softer and more peaceful. Every line of his face looked as if it had been meticulously carved. Long brows, a high nose, and thin lips that were said to belong to a cold-hearted man. And yet, his passions were heavy and intense, all hidden beneath his jade-like beauty and seemingly indifferent demeanor. Yunyan wondered, how could one person have so many different sides? Inadvertently, she thought of the Yin from back then, his ruthless and decisive gaze. He had looked at her father, and even at her, as if they were his sworn enemies, as if he wanted to tear the entire Yu family apart, bone by bone. A shiver ran through Yunyan, a chill rising from the depths of her heart. How could she be so mesmerized by the appearance of such a demonic man? She carefully tried to withdraw her hands and feet, intending to tiptoe out of bed. But as soon as she turned, a man's arm wrapped around her slender waist from behind, pulling her back against his chest. The moment their skin touched, Yunyan stiffened. The man's body seemed to have woken up much earlier. Its heat gradually warmed her. At the small of her back, she could distinctly feel something hard pressing against her. A man's morning desire was strong and undisguised. Jiang Yinyan pressed lightly against her from behind and chuckled. "You stared at me for so long, and now you're just going to leave without doing anything?" The man was cunning. He had been awake the whole time. Was he playing dumb to catch his prey? "Who was looking at you?" "Let go, I'm going to wash up." Yunyan pushed against him, her heart unsteady. Jiang Yinyan captured her restless hands and pulled her into his embrace. His thin lips trailed down from her forehead, an intimate caress between lovers. "What's the hurry?" Seeing that his interest was piqued, Yunyan's heart began to race. Aren't we going out today? Don't tell me you plan to stay in bed all day. That's a fine idea. Staying in bed for a day sounds quite nice. Jiang Yunyan laughed softly. Frightened, Yunyan struggled to get up. I don't want to. In the next moment, Jiang Yunyan pinned her beneath him, propping himself up on his elbows beside her face. His long fingers toyed idly with the strands of hair by her ear. I let you go last night. You think it was easy for me? Above her, the man's eyes were as dark and deep as the sea. His voice held the laziness of just waking, now tinged with the growing hoarseness of desire. It was a magnetic sound that drilled into her ears, utterly captivating. The faint tickling on her earlobe, the light, teasing touch, was enough to make one's head spin. Yunyan pressed her hands against his chest, but its scorching heat seared her. Her mouth went dry. I'm hungry. I want to eat. Jiang Yunyan's handsome face lowered. I'm hungry too. Starving since last night. I'm being serious with you, Yunyan said in a fluster, her cheeks unable to stop flushing red. Her skin was like porcelain, and the touch of red made her breathtakingly beautiful, like a rosy dawn. The morning was quiet, the sheer curtains filtering the light, casting a soft glow in the bedroom. The room was warm, filled with the scent of sunlight mixed with the light fragrance of the woman in his arms. And so, desire bloomed in Jiang Yunyan's eyes, like a flower growing wildly in the dark, determined to pierce her body, to devour her beauty and light until he was finally satisfied. Jiang Yunyan's voice grew huskier. He took her hand with a half-smile. Am I joking with you? She was forced to feel his urgent readiness. Her palm felt as if it had been scalded, and her face grew even redder. Jiang Yunyan was amused, a sexy smile playing on his lips. He lowered his face, his lips brushing lightly against hers. When he spoke again, his voice was a low rasp. Be good. I'll be quick, and then I'll take you to eat. The flirtatious words and actions made Yunyan's breathing uneven. She wasn't that gullible. Liar. You've never been quick. There was an accusatory tone to her words. Then there's another way. Jiang Yunyan feigned a serious tone. Want to try it? Yunyan watched him warily. From her understanding of him, especially at a time like this, he was definitely not up to any good. Seeing her reaction, a smile touched Jiang Yunyan's lips. His long fingers gently caressed her red lips. As his gaze fell upon them, the light in his eyes deepened. Yunyan's scalp tingled. She understood immediately. No, she was both panicked and afraid. The last time had been when he was in a rage, and she had been tormented and humiliated. Jiang Yunyan saw the fear in her eyes. The pat of his finger gently parted her lips, his gaze growing even deeper. Just try it. Like a startled bird, Yunyan shook her head frantically. No, I don't want to. Her voice was almost a shriek, and she even bit his finger instinctively. It wasn't a light bite at all, a pure act of self-preservation. Jiang Yunyan grunted and glanced down to see teeth marks on his finger. Are you a dog? You bite when you're cornered? He laughed. Yunyan's face was beyond red as she protested. It's your fault for. My fault for what? Jiang Yunyan deliberately teased her. I was just making a suggestion. If you don't want to, I won't force you. What are you so worked up about? As if anyone would believe his words. Won't force her? Hadn't he forced her countless times? You're the one who said you wouldn't force me. Yunyan seized on the key part of his statement, pushing him. So get up. Jiang Yunyan let out a low chuckle, staring at her face for a long moment before suddenly getting up. Fine. Yunyan hadn't expected him to concede so easily. Was this for real? But before she could analyze whether it was true or false, Jiang Yunyan gave her the answer. He reached out, took control of her, and turned her entire body over. His tall frame pressed against her back. He laughed softly. Then let's just eat. Yunyan finally realized she had been tricked and cried out, Jiang Yunyan, you went back on your word. Full of passion, Jiang Yunyan reached around, turned her face toward him, and gently bit her red lips. Yunyan, I want you. On that matter, I've never made you any promises. Yunyan's gasps were all sealed by his thin lips. Gyutin Temple was the most popular temple in the city. Besides its ancient origins, it was most famous for a 1,000-year-old ginkgo tree. After the golden autumn arrived, Gyutin Temple was at its most beautiful. The ginkgo leaves turned to gold, falling to the ground to form a spectacular, layered golden carpet that stretched as far as the eye could see. Every year, it attracted countless tourists who came to take photos. Yunyan never, ever expected Jiang Yunyan to bring her to Gyutin Temple. Standing at the mountain gate, she felt a sense of a trance-like daze, as if everything were a dream. That morning, he had devoured her completely. He had openly coaxed and tricked her, promising to be quick, but in reality, he had become a ravenous beast, more ferocious and relentless than he was at night. Perhaps because it was his day off, he had eaten to his absolute fill. During their meal, Yunyan's body felt weak all over. Jiang Yinyan said with feigned kindness. If you're too tired, go back to the room and rest. We have time. Go back to the room and rest. Compared to her exhaustion, he was brimming with vigor. His words held a hint of impropriety that made her shudder. She forced a smile in response. No, I'm not tired at all. I'm as refreshed as you are, young Master Yin. Is that so? Jiang Yinyan could clearly see she didn't mean it, but he deliberately chuckled. So we should engage in bedroom activities more often. It's a good way to maintain vitality. Yinyan decided to focus on her food and stop talking to him. She had thought he hadn't planned anything, that his so-called sightseeing was just driving around aimlessly. So after getting in the car, she didn't have high hopes, thinking she would have to come back to Chang'an on her own someday to properly experience the ancient capital's atmosphere and visit the places she wanted to see. The place she wanted to go was Gyutan Temple. He had asked her before if there was anywhere she wanted to go. She had said no, but in fact there was. She wanted to go to Gyutan Temple. The last time she came to Chang'an, she was still young. Her perspective on people and things was different, which meant the places she chose to visit were different too. She had missed Gyutan Temple and missed the opportunity to meet 1,000 years of time. The reason she remembered it this time was from a magazine. There had been a magazine in the car after they landed in Nanzhou. To avoid talking to Jiang Yinyan, she had picked it up to flip through and stumbled upon an article about Gyutan Temple. The photos in the magazine showed the magnificent sight of the temple's paths paved in gold, followed by an article about the temple's 1,000-year history. She had read it over and over, thinking at the time how wonderful it would be to visit again, just as it was in its most beautiful season, when the ginkgo trees of Gyutan Temple would be a sea of brilliant gold once more. She had grown up in the south. The first time she had truly witnessed the sight of a road carpeted with golden ginkgo leaves was in Beishur. The place she had grown up in was like spring all year round. As her mother used to say, the north had 4 distinct seasons, and the sight of the ginkgo-paved roads was even more spectacular. Later, she followed Yuanzhou to Beishur, but she was no longer in the mood to appreciate ginkgo trees. At this time of year, Beishur naturally had the most ginkgo trees, but she was uniquely drawn to the ones at Gyutan Temple. That day, Yunyan didn't know how many times she had stared at the magazine photos, or why she had suddenly become so fixated on it. Now, standing at the temple's mountain gate, looking at the main hall and the bell and drum towers in the distance, seeing the scent of temple incense clinging to the passing worshippers, she suddenly understood. What she truly longed for wasn't the 1,000-year-old ginkgo tree, but the temple bells that had rung ceaselessly through a millennium of vicissitudes, and the untangling of her heart's knots amidst the curling incense smoke, which finally brought a sense of peace to her restless soul. Yunyan asked Jiang Yinyan, "Why did you think of coming to a temple?" Jiang Yinyan turned to look at her. "I heard this place was nice, so I came." Yunyan felt her question was like a fist punching cotton. She couldn't get to the point and had to listen to his nonsense. Her gaze met his, and he smiled. "Don't believe me?" "I don't," Yunyan said, walking towards the incense offering spot. "You cut short your trip in Nanzhou and traveled all the way to Chang'an, just because you heard this place was nice?" Jiang Yinyan chuckled. "One shouldn't push themselves too hard. Proper relaxation is essential. I've heard of this place a long time ago, but never had a chance to come and see it." "See what?" Yunyan took 2 bundles of incense and handed one to him, asking. Jiang Yinyan paused, unsure if it was her sudden question or a casual gesture. Seeing his silence, Yunyan raised an eyebrow slightly. "Why that expression?" "The architecture and the trees," he said. His gaze inadvertently swept over the courtyard wall, where there was an introduction to the temple's vegetation. He subtly lifted his chin, gesturing to see the ginkgo trees. Yunyan said, "Oh," and asked with feigned seriousness, "So, young Master Yin likes to look at ginkgo trees." Jiang Yinyan's lips curved slightly, but he said nothing, which in outsider's eyes was not a denial. Yunyan, seeing this, asked curiously, "Then where's the best place to see ginkgo trees in Beishur? I'll go see them when I get back." This question stumped Jiang Yinyan, who couldn't answer for a moment. Finally, he cleared his throat. "If you want to see them, I'll have old Lu inquire about it." Yunyan was speechless. Does this kind of thing require old Lu? A typical case of using an ox cleaver to kill a chicken. She handed him the incense. He looked down at it, then at Yunyan. Yunyan kindly reminded him, "You're entering a temple and not going to offer incense before Buddha?" Jiang Yinyan hesitated before taking the incense. He rarely visited temples. The longest time he had spent in one wasn't even a pray to Buddha. That night, the rain was heavy, and the entire Buddha hall was filled with the smell of blood. Warm blood splattered the Buddha's face. He meticulously wiped the blood from the Buddha's statue, telling the Buddha, "You speak of all karma in the world, but if everyone believed in karma, this blood before you wouldn't have appeared, would it?" Jiang Yinyan never believed in karma. just as he never believed that merely holding 3 sticks of incense and circling a Buddha statue would make everything go as desired. The hardest thing to calm in this world is the human heart, and the most variable is also the human heart. To sway people's hearts always requires cautious steps. After handing the incense to Jiang Yinyan, Yunyan didn't press him further about why he came to Gyutan Temple. She turned and walked towards the main hall. Jiang Yinyan slowly followed. Compared to the devout worshippers in the temple, Jiang Yinyan stood out prominently among them. Standing at the entrance of the main hall, Yunyan inadvertently glanced back at him. He stood outside by the incense burner with his hands clasped behind his back, surrounded by worshippers offering 3 tall sticks of incense to the deities. Only he seemed like an outsider, standing proudly, looking down. Yet, despite being so out of place, he possessed a harmonious sense of being one with this mundane world. He had the calm, ascetic air of a Buddha's disciple and a divine countenance unmatched by others. But his eyes were extremely cold and indifferent, as if nothing of the mortal world had ever entered them. A person like him probably doesn't believe in Buddha. Yunyan cast aside her random thoughts and entered the hall. Soon after, Jiang Yinyan also strolled in and immediately saw Yunyan kneeling before the Buddha. She knelt on the prayer mat, hands pressed together, her long hair loose, face bare of makeup, and her plain white clothes complementing the surroundings perfectly. There weren't many worshippers today. People knelt beside Yunyan, came and went, but she remained kneeling before the Buddha for a considerable time. Jiang Yinyan looked down at her, unable to guess what exactly she was praying for. Praying for the Yu family's prosperity, for Yu Zhuanzhou's safety, for her friend's health and happiness. Or perhaps, praying to successfully leave his side? She could pray for anything for the Yu family, for Yuanzhou, for her friends, but never for him. When Yunyan rose, she saw Jiang Yinyan still standing there and asked him, "Aren't you going to pay your respects?" Jiang Yinyan said, "I don't have a habit of praying to Buddha. When you enter a Buddhist temple and stand before the Buddha, you should always pay your respects, if only for your own peace of mind," Yunyan said softly. Jiang Yinyan smiled, but said little else, standing before the Buddhist statue and bowing with his hands pressed together. As they walked out of the hall, Yunyan said, "Since you don't believe in Buddha, why come to a temple?" She hadn't seen him eager to look at any scenery. Anyone who came here just to check in at scenic spots will be taking photos everywhere with their phones and cameras. He, on the other hand, hadn't taken out his phone since entering the temple gate. "Do you believe in Buddha?" Jiang Yinyan asked. Although the Yu family of Jiangnan were not Buddhists, in the eyes of outsiders, they were always known as benevolent merchants. Yu Yuan enjoyed charity, and the Yu family's reputation was built up little by little in this way. When he was with the Yu family, he hadn't seen Yunyan frequenting temples, presumably because she was too young then. Yunyan said, "I believe in karma in this world, and I also believe in reverence." Jiang Yinyan fell silent upon hearing this. She turned to look at him. "What about you? Do you have reverence in your heart?" Jiang Yinyan looked at the wisps of incense, smoke rising before the hall. "The reason I've come this far has never been due to the protection of Buddha or deities. Although I don't believe in Buddha, one thing is certain. A person must have reverence in their heart to act clearly and cautiously. Otherwise, if their heart is in disarray, they will lose everything." "You don't believe in karma?" Jiang Yinyan stopped and looked at her. Facing the sunlight, not a single ray of light seemed to enter his eyes. "I only believe in myself." Gyutan Temple's millennium-old ginkgo trees had indeed turned yellow, their golden hues catching the eye from afar, eliciting continuous admiration up close. Many young women ran up to take photos, striking endless poses. Yunyan didn't go forward to take pictures. She simply chose a spot and watched quietly. Watching the wind arrive and leaves fall, watching the wind depart and the golden silence. Jiang Yinyan asked her what she was thinking. She said, "This ancient tree is over 1,000 years old. It could almost become a spirit. How many dynasties, how many people have passed before it? The world changes, but it stands firm." Just then, she heard a girl nearby scolding her boyfriend. "Can you even take a picture? What kind of angle is this? You made me look so short." The young couple didn't look very old. The boy's response was quite blunt. "Well, your legs are short to begin with. How am I supposed to make them look 2 meters long?" The girl was displeased. "Angles. Find an angle. A good angle can make legs look long. Turn your phone upside down and take 2 more pictures for me." The boy sighed helplessly. "You've been circling this tree and taking pictures for almost half an hour. Aren't you tired? That's enough. I want to post a 9-panel grid on my moments. Is that not allowed?" Yunyan couldn't help but want to laugh, but held it in. The girl's psychology was easy to understand, and her boyfriend was a typical straight man. She turned her face away, afraid that genuinely laughing might displease others. Jiang Yinyan appropriately stood in front of her, his broad frame blocking the view of the couple, so that even if she truly wanted to laugh, others wouldn't see it. He said, "Go ahead and laugh if you want to now." Yunyan waved her hands repeatedly, stifling a laugh. "Impolite, impolite." "Then why are you still laughing?" "I just think a 9-panel grid in the same scene is like a spot the difference game," Yunyan said softly. Jiang Yunyan looked at her smiling eyes, brightened by the sunlight, like pear blossoms on a branch, and his heart softened slightly. He asked, "Don't you like this ginkgo tree? Want to take a picture?" Yunyan was about to say there were too many people and no need to take pictures, but then she realized, "How do you know I like this ginkgo tree?" The premonition in her heart grew stronger. Jiang Yunyan was momentarily stunned by her question. After collecting himself, he cleared his throat. "Didn't you just say you liked looking at ginkgo trees? And wanted to see them when you returned to Beishur?" Yunyan pursed her lips slightly. He really was good at misattributing things. The previous wave of worshippers had finished taking pictures and left, including the couple. It was clear the boy really didn't know how to take photos. In short, before leaving, the girl kept flipping through the pictures on her phone, muttering, "I still need to edit them. Make my arms thinner." She was really trying hard to post on her moments. Jiang Yunyan lifted his chin slightly. "Go on. I'll take them for you." "You?" Yunyan was surprised. "Since we're already here, consider it a souvenir," Jiang Yunyan said softly. "While no one's around." Yunyan quite wanted to, but in her imagination, the photos should be artistic, grand shots, not casual snapshots taken with a phone. Moreover, the other person was Jiang Yunyan, so she couldn't demand too much. If Xiao Min were here, it would be great. Not only did she, as a fashion editor-in-chief, have quite tricky shooting angles, but even purely from their relationship, she wouldn't be embarrassed to boss him around, right? She hesitated for a moment, but decided to take the pictures anyway. Just for the memories. Jiang Yunyan took them directly with his phone. He just had her walk or pause casually into the ginkgo tree. All in all, it took less than 2 minutes. Done. Asterisk Yunyan thought to herself, "Good thing I didn't have high expectations." The eye in her memory was no different from the straight man who had left before. He had helped her take photos before, but that time it wasn't her. She had seen an outfit she liked, and being in a hurry and afraid of forgetting which one it was, she asked Ian to take a picture. Ian truly just snapped a picture casually. It was so sloppy, the clothes were crooked. For this, she had earnestly told Ian, "Even though you're just a bodyguard, you should practice taking pictures when necessary. Today I just asked you to take a picture of clothes, but what if tomorrow I want you to take a picture of me?" Jiang Yunyan sent the photos to her phone. Her phone was in her bag, and Yunyan didn't look at them, thinking they were probably just mediocre anyway. Whether she looked or not, they were just been there, done that photos. Millennium Old Gyutin Temple, prayers answered. Yunyan went before the hall to get a prayer slip and hung it on the wishing tree, then clasped her hands together again for a sincere wish. Jiang Yunyan stood beside her, with a few slanted rays of light filtering through the leaves onto her hair and cheek. Her cascading hair gleamed, and her face, completely free of makeup, was strikingly fair and delicate. Her skin was naturally good. She looked clean and fresh even without makeup. After making her wish, Yunyan held the prayer slip and stood on tiptoes, trying to hang it as high as possible. She tried several times to reach a high branch, but couldn't. Jiang Yunyan, standing behind her, chuckled at this sight. He took the prayer slip from her hand, about to hang it higher, but she stopped him. No, I have to hang the prayer slip myself." Jiang Yunyan held the prayer slip in one hand, looking down at her. "Didn't you want to hang it high?" "Yes, but I'll hang it as high as I can." Yunyan only regretted not wearing stilettos. Jiang Yunyan handed the prayer slip back to her. "Hold this." The next second, Jiang Yunyan picked her up effortlessly. Yunyan, startled, let out a gasp and instinctively clutched his head, drawing glances from people around them. Jiang Yunyan let out a muffled chuckle. "Don't be afraid, just hang it. I won't drop you." The man's arms were strong and firm, and Yunyan believed she wouldn't fall. It was just that she hadn't reacted immediately to being suddenly lifted by him. She released her grip, straightened her upper body. This time it was hung high, a row of bright red below. Couldn't look down. Jiang Yunyan's height was such an advantage. She felt like she was on stilts. Once it was neatly hung, she patted his head, signaling him to put her down. Jiang Yunyan slightly loosened his arms. She instinctively braced herself on his shoulders, but before she was fully down, Jiang Yunyan suddenly tightened his arms. Again, she was unprepared, gasping, and quickly wrapped her arms around his neck. His arms naturally encircled her, and her legs were wrapped around his waist as he held her completely in his embrace. "Let me down quickly." Yunyan saw everyone around them watching her, and her face instantly turned red. Jiang Yunyan asked, "Who are you praying for?" Yunyan's cherry lips parted slightly. "Family, friends." Jiang Yunyan stared at her face with a half-smile. "What else did you wish for?" "Nothing else." Yunyan felt the pose was too intimate. She braced her hands on his shoulders, trying to straighten her body. Let go quickly. Jiang Yinyin saw her cheeks flush red. His thin lips twitched, but he didn't tease her further. He loosened his arms, and she naturally slid down. However, he didn't lower his arms. He slipped one around her waist and pulled her forward, causing her to bump into his embrace again. He leaned his face to her ear and whispered, "If your wish is to leave me, then you can save your strength." Yunyin pushed him away, lowering her gaze to hide the panic in her heart. What nonsense are you talking about? But actually, he had guessed correctly. Besides praying for heaven's protection and smooth sailing for her family and friends, she had also prayed for the deities to open their eyes and allow her to leave Jiang Yinyin smoothly. She didn't know how to gain her freedom. Did she have to wait a year? But what unsettled her now was that Jiang Yinyin no longer spoke of a year. He forbade her from leaving, forced her to stay by his side, even pressured her to promise during intimacy that she was his and would be his for this lifetime. Yunyin was scared. What she feared was that after a year, what she would get in return was his going back on his word. Jiang Yinyin took in her restless thoughts, but didn't expose them. He raised a hand, ruffled her hair, and smiled without speaking. Several middle-aged female tourists passed by. One of them, a social butterfly, chuckled and said, "This young couple looks so sweet. The young man is handsome, and the girl is pretty, a match made in heaven," another Annie chimed in. Upon hearing this, Yunyin couldn't have been more embarrassed. Jiang Yinyin, however, remained calm and composed, smiling. "Thank you." Yinyin quickly pulled him away. Jiang Yinyin allowed her to drag him, walking forward languidly, and chuckled shy. "Don't say anything more." Having traveled thousands of miles to a millennium-old Buddhist temple, it was customary to perform some meritorious deed. Although Jiang Yinyin didn't have the habit of burning incense or praying to Buddha, he was certainly not vague when it came to donating money for the temple's construction. In other words, he was quite generous with his money. When it came to writing in the merit book, Jiang Yinyin refused, deeming it unnecessary. Yunyin, however, disagreed. "How can it be unnecessary?" she asked, and wrote an entry for him in the merit book. After offering prayers and strolling around the temple grounds, the sun began to set in the west. Thinking of the evening snack market, Yunyin decided to save room and didn't eat the vegetarian meal at the temple. Seeing her conflicted expression, Jiang Yinyin sighed lightly. "If you want to eat the vegetarian meal, then eat." It was the first time he'd seen someone so torn over a temple meal. Yunyin shook her head. "If I eat now, I won't have room for the evening snacks." Jiang Yinyin offered a suggestion. "Get the vegetarian meal to go." Yunyin pondered for a long while before finally compromising. Temple food only has a certain ambience when eaten in a specific setting. Jiang Yinyin looked at her, amused. "What are you laughing at?" Jiang Yinyin didn't hold back. "You were greedy even as a child. You used to rack your brains trying to get your hands on salty, greasy, unhealthy snacks, and even after ending up in the hospital on N4 drip, you never learned your lesson. All these years later, you still haven't changed that habit." Yunyin retorted, "I don't eat them often." Then she added, "It's only when I don't eat them often, or when I was forbidden to eat them as a child, that I really crave them." Jiang Yinyin gave her a wry look, a woman usually so clever and calm, if she could rack her brains for a bite of junk food. There were two paths leading down the mountain from the temple gate. One was a smooth asphalt road, convenient for walking and transporting supplies. The other was a mountain path, or more precisely, a winding trail paved with stones of varying sizes, weaving through the pine forest. Yunyin preferred the mountain path. As the wind blew, the scent of pine accompanied her breath. In the distance, the occasional sound of a temple bell chimed, and when the slanting sun pierced through the pine forest, thousands of light rays scattered, making her feel utterly comfortable. The mountain path was narrow, so Yunyin and Jiang Yinyin walked one behind the other. Now and then, they'd see squirrels at the base of trees, scurrying away once people approached. Yunyin, in a rare moment of ease, softly said, "When I was little, I learned Jia Dao, seeking the recluse in vain, incredibly quickly. Back then, I used to wonder how vast and beautiful the mountains where a recluse lived must be. Immortal peaks shrouded in mist. I longed for them." Jiang Yinyin watched her back, then quietly said a moment later, "If there's somewhere you want to go, just tell me. It's not a difficult request." Yunyin's steps faltered. She caught a hint in his words, as if he intended to accompany her. "What's wrong?" Jiang Yinyin asked, seeing her pause. "Nothing. Walking on the stones is a bit tiring," Yunyin said, unwilling to continue the previous topic.